Next, we're going to talk some labor and a strike that was actually successful. So, how educators in Brookline, Massachusetts won an illegal strike, right? So, striking has been illegal for public employees since 1919. But educators won nearly all their demands after they walked out on May 16th. Out of a membership of nearly 1,100, more than 900 signed in on the picket lines May 16th. Strike culminated with 1,000 educators descending on Town Hall for a rally with allies from around the state. Yeah. So this is actually from Maggie Canniff. She was actually one of the members who did execute the strike and one of the members of the union. So wanted to spotlight this. This was in LaborNotes back about a week ago, 10 days ago. Bargaining team negotiated into the early hours of the next morning. When the sun rose, they had won 2 back-to-back 3-year contracts with guaranteed prep periods for all educators, a fair pay raise, including important changes to longevity structures and language aimed at attracting and retaining a more diverse workforce. In short, right. They won all their demands with minimal compromise. Perhaps more important, they ended a cycle of disrespect and showed that they are willing to take collective action. Yes! I think that elected officials will think twice about messing with the teachers now that they saw what we could do by sticking together, said school librarian Dominique Gagné. The school committee made themselves look bad to the voters, and public opinion shifted in our favor. So, lifting the curtain to understand how the Brookline Educators Union built the capacity to break the law and strike, you have to look back a few years. Since 2016, we've been through 2 superintendents and 3 interim superintendents, the result of rash attempts to impose an untenable, data-driven model of schooling on our educators and students. What's going on here? Despite all the turnover, the school committee, like a school board, was steadily growing more combative during the negotiations. To expose this behavior, we pushed to open bargaining to members and the public. In 2019, we won a step in that direction, the right to have 12 silent representatives at the bargaining table. Throughout the bargaining process from 2019 to 2022, more than 100 rank-and-file members served as silent representatives, bearing witness to management's blatant bad faith bargaining. Quote, I witnessed the demeanor, tactics, and commentary of the school committee's lawyer, said social studies teacher Susan Ballow. That's when I knew I had to join the contract action team. I mean, this is the haves versus the have-nots in management versus labor all day long. Yeah, this person says here, being a silent rep gave me tremendous appreciation of how difficult it was to be on the negotiations team, and I no longer questioned them. If, in their judgment, we needed a work action, whatever that might be, I would support them. So by sitting in on these committees, it's actually convincing the workers that the people representing them are actually representing them, and they'll go strike if they say, we need to strike. This is good. Then they're ramping up here. So in the spring of 2021, school committee proposed a 0% raise for the 2021 school year. They came back in September 21 with slightly more money, but proposed to weaken their grievance rights and added a demand for a 30-minute longer workday without additional pay. Why? Why are they getting more for nothing? Why are they having to give just to be able to keep your jobs? This doesn't make any sense. Meanwhile, we were proposing fair cost of living adjustments, stronger measures to attract and retain educators of color, a planning period for every educator every day, and a joint committee to expose inequities and excesses in job expectations. I don't think there's anything unreasonable about any of that. The school committee ignored these proposals and offered no counters, then forced us into the interstate mediation by claiming impasse. We already had been doing work to rule action, a canvassing campaign, visibility rallies, and leafleting. Do you see? Okay, is everybody writing this down? Is everybody writing? Take notes. Work to rule action, a canvassing campaign, visibility rallies, and leafleting. When mediation started, we realized it was time to ramp up. we shifted the role of our contract action team to coordinating a broader action team of 200 highly engaged members. What did they do? We mapped out an action escalation, including a public rally, attending a meeting of the select board like a city council to demand funding, and packing the school committee meeting to give testimony showing our outrage. Through these actions, members began to feel that this wasn't just another contract fight. We were out to break a cycle of fear and disrespect. Boom. Then, here's the other key, personal outreach. Leading up to the strike vote, we had just a week to reach 1,100 members. We used a central spreadsheet to track how ready each person was to vote yes. Math teacher Julie James said, with each communication, I understood that the personal contact from me was different than getting an email. They identified building leads to get in touch with strike headquarters and picket captains who would stay in touch with 10 members apiece, and we created cross-building partnerships. It all paid off, renewing her faith that when we fight, we can win. But do you see the coordination? Do you see the amount of people? Do you see the amount of structure that there is there?
Yep.
Organization. This is organized, not like the AOC version of organize, but the Freedom Fighters DC, right? Isn't that the organization that Afeni's part of? Fred Hampton organized.
I think, yeah.
This is great. Okay. I wanted to spotlight this because there aren't very many unions and very many strikes that are actually leading to big wins against management. And though that big win was nothing unreasonable at all, the fact that there was a win. So Maggie's a kindergarten teacher and she's the co-chair of the contract action team.
Okay.
So big fan. Shout out to Maggie. Shout out to LaborNotes for covering this. And support teachers, support educators. Highly underpaid in every way, shape, and form. Overworked. And as a parent with kids in the public school system, man, we got to take care of these people. We really do. I mean, they have been abused and underpaid and forced vaccinations mostly everywhere around the country, from my understanding, wherever there was a mandate for a vax in order for teachers to go back to work. They've endured masks. They've endured getting sick. They've endured their colleagues dying.
Colin said, Brookline is a high-income suburb next to Boston. That is not surprising that the demands would be met.
Yeah. There's money there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Colin would have plenty to say about that on INN News.
Yep.
But 1,100 educators winning a strike action against their bosses is always a good thing, and it's maybe an indicator, and maybe it's throwing a bone like Colin's saying, and maybe it's just like, hey, we'll give them this one in a nice area, and the wealthy kids will get a little bit better stuff, and they'll get better teachers, but the system continues to roll on and not much changes. And I think that's really probably the point that Colin was trying to make, and he's not wrong there at all. Love you, Colin. Care Bear. So